Konnichiwa, Pat Tokuyama here, creator of All Day I Eat Like a Shark, where I share my Japanese cooking videos once a week showing you guys how to make Japanese food. If this is your first time here, subscribe for more videos like this one. Today is another episode of Shark Bites. Are you excited? I know I am, because we're continuing where we left off last time, talking about where to eat in Japan, what kind of restaurants to look for. So, like I mentioned, some of the things that we're going to be talking about are a little bit more specific in terms of what types of restaurants that you should be eating at when you're visiting Japan. So today what we're going to be talking about are different specialty restaurants in Japan that specialize in various types of Japanese cooking. So the first thing, I guess we should get out of the way, the first two restaurants that we should get out of the way, one is going to be sushi as well as ramen. So sushi and ramen I know are very popular. For sushi, there's two types of restaurants that you should consider eating at. One is going to be kaiten sushi, which is the conveyor belt sushi, which they have the little dishes. There's usually like one or two pieces of onigiri, which are the little pieces of rice with a slice of sashimi on top. Sometimes they can do temaki sushi, which is the hand rolls, or you can also order various cut rolls and other types of things that they might have as a special for that day. These tend to be on the cheaper side, but they're not necessarily cheap. They can be, I guess, middle range or not so budget friendly, depending on where it is that you're going. And then on the opposite spectrum, you have high-end sushi, where you're literally at a counter with the sushi chef. Maybe there's like 6 to 8 tables or 6 to 8 chairs or 10 to 12 chairs, depending on how big the space is. But usually these are very small restaurants. Those tend to be on the pricier side, but the type of sushi is different because the way that you eat it is one piece at a time. As the sushi chef makes it, you eat one piece and then he makes another piece, you eat that piece, and it takes maybe about an hour to an hour and a half depending on how fast the pace is, but usually you'll end up pretty full. I think the last time that I went we had maybe 12 pieces, and that lasted about maybe 70 minutes. It was very good because you don't require shoyu or soy sauce. That's because the rice seasoning, the shari, is seasoned appropriately. Sometimes the fish is also seasoned, like with a tare, which is a sauce, a soy sauce based sauce, or other vinegar based sauces. Two types of sushi places that you should try on your next visit. So for ramen is one of the more popular soup noodles in Japan. There's also udon, which are the thicker noodles, as well as somen and soba. Soba is buckwheat noodle. So those are other types of noodle restaurants that you should definitely try in addition to ramen. Ramen is more like it's like a late night food. If you've never had it in Japan, make sure that you try it on your visit there. There's different regional variations of ramen. So for example, in Fukuoka, which is in Kyushu, it's the capital of Kyushu, they're known for their tonkotsu ramen, which is the pork bone broth. As well as in Tokyo area, they're known for shoyu ramen. And then in Sapporo, you might get miso ramen, so miso paste that has been added to ramen. So those are a few examples that might be worth investigating on your next trip or when you're preparing for your next trip. Number 3 is going to be yoshoku. Yoshoku is Western cuisine, and this could be anything from American food, German food, Italian food, things like hambagu or steak. Any kind of a meat dish has some sort of a Western influence. Hambagu, hamburger. Hambagu is steak, so it's not literally like a hamburger with a meat patty and bun. It's just a meat patty. Usually they'll serve it with some miso soup, some rice, maybe some vegetables as well. It's very tasty. Other types of things that they'll serve at yoshoku restaurants are like spaghetti, pasta, mentaiko pasta is another example. Omuraisu is omuretsu raisu. It's short for that, and that's an omelet with rice. There's variations on that as well. Sometimes they'll serve it with hayashi sauce, which is it's a red wine reduction sauce. It's very rich, similar to curry, but not really. Hard to describe if you've never had it before. It's very beefy, very rich in flavor, and highly recommended. If you ever go to a yoshoku restaurant, that's something that you might find on the menu. So yeah, yoshoku is Western food. It might be a good match for somebody who's not adventurous and wants to have something that's more similar to what they get at home if you're from a Western country, or if you are curious to see what Japanese style food tastes like. So Italian pastas are some of my Japanese style, or wafu pasta are some of my favorite yoshoku dishes. So I love mentaiko pasta, for example. So the fourth type of restaurant that you should take a look out for is, if you're going to be in Osaka or Kyoto area, is the okonomiyaki, which is Kansai style, as well as Hiroshima. Hiroshima is in the southern part of Japan, a little bit further south than Osaka. Both of those cities specialize in okonomiyaki. They make it slightly different. There's Hiroshima style and Osaka style. Okonomiyaki is a savory pancake. Sometimes they put seafood in there, like squid, shrimp. You can put cheese, you can put beef or pork, but it's very delicious, and they make it on a grill. grill right in front of you, and they serve it with some okonomiyaki sauce, some aonori, which is dried seaweed, and maybe some mayo, or okaka, which is it's the shaved katsuo, the shavings, same stuff that they use for dashi, as well as takoyaki. So Osaka, you'll find if you're walking around the shotengai, which are the shopping streets that are in Osaka, you might find some takoyaki stands. There's a bunch all over the place. I've tried, I don't know, 7 or 8 of the different shops there, and they're all pretty good. That's another specialty of Osaka that you should be on the lookout for. So I already talked a little bit about soup kare from Sapporo, as well as miso ramen. And in Kyoto, if you're in Osaka or the Kyoto area, another thing that they're famous for is kyoryori, which is Kyoto-style cooking. So it's very different from the rest of the country. It's very refined, a lot of delicate flavors, very seasonal. They always use seasonal ingredients. It's one of my favorite cuisines. Tofu, it's one of the big ingredients in kyoryori. Chances are, if you're eating at a kyoryori restaurant, you'll get some tofu or soy-based dishes. So tofu ryori, you can't forget about those restaurants. Those are the restaurants that help to influence me in terms of my cooking, my diet, and publishing my first cookbook, Tofu Ryori. Another example of regional cuisine is Hida. Hida is in the northern part of Japan, a little bit north of Tokyo, and they specialize in beef. So Hida beef. Hida-gyu is one of the famous things from that area. So that was the regional specialties that you should be looking out for. And like I mentioned or alluded to previously, some of the other things that you might be interested in are specialty shops. Like I mentioned, fish shops. There's also good Thai restaurants, so Thai ryori, Hankoku ryori, which is Korean cuisine, Chuka ryori, which is Chinese cuisine, but depending on where you go, they might have a little bit of a Japanese influence. Tonkatsu. So tonkatsu is another specialty restaurant where they serve fried pork cutlet. You might be able to get minchikatsu, which is like minced meat katsu, which is a fried minced meat patty, as well as eel, hitsumabushi, which is the eel specialty of Nagoya. The way that they prepare the eel, they baste it in the sauce, and then the way that they serve it is a Nagoya specialty. Number 6 is if you ever stay at a yokan, which is sort of like a traditional Japanese inn where they serve your food in your room. Some of them might serve it in the restaurant, but sometimes they just bring all the food to your room. Same thing as if you were to stay at a temple. Some of the temples, like in Koya, for example, on my last trip, they brought our food to our room. Those are 2 other areas where you might be able to try some unique Japanese style dishes and meals that aren't available anywhere else. And then the last thing, number 7, which I think is the one that you're going to be most excited about, is the depachika. Depachika is it's shortened Japanese word for department basement. So depato is how you say department store in Japanese, and then chika is underground. So depachika, they usually have a supermarket as well as tons and tons of different shops. So some of these are going to be sweets, like confectionaries, bakeries. There might be some fruit stands, or there might be, there's usually a grocery, and they have a lot of delis. There's other like obento shops. They literally have all kinds of different Japanese foods. There's usually like, I don't know, 20 to 50 to maybe even 100 different vendors in the depachika, depending on how big the department store is. So highly recommend checking that out, maybe even on your first day while you're in Japan, because there's so much variety. It'll give you a good idea of what Japanese food is. Those are a few of my tips for choosing a restaurant, coming up with a plan or itinerary on where to eat in Japan. If you have any other tips or suggestions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Maybe we can learn from each other. And if you have any questions as well, if you like this video, you want to see more videos like this one, subscribe if you haven't already. And I think other than that, I'll see you in my next video. Ja ne. Bye bye.